Have you ever heard that Earth's climate has always been changing? Let's take a look. To get a better sense of the timescale we are working with here, look and see just how long it's taken for us to get where we are today. Even before dinosaurs roamed the Earth nearly 360 million years ago, our planet was covered in carbon-rich plants and swamps teeming with organisms. These organisms eventually sank to the bottom of the swamps and decomposed under intense heat and pressure over the course of millions of years. They eventually formed the coal, oil, and natural gas that we use today. The first dinosaurs did not walk the Earth until nearly 100 million years later. The first reliable data scientists used to approximate carbon dioxide concentrations and temperature comes from ice core data that only dates back 800,000 years, over 64 million years after the extinction of the last dinosaurs. For the purpose of this video, Sarah will be running through the past 800,000 years, broken up into a 26.2-mile marathon. Here we are at the starting line, 800,000 years ago. At that time, Earth's climate was much like it is today. We call this an interglacial period. Earth's carbon dioxide concentration was about 270 parts per million. We are now approaching mile 1.6 and we now start to see a shift in the Earth's climate. It is getting much colder as we are heading into a glacial period. Much of the northern hemisphere is now covered in ice and the Earth's carbon dioxide concentration plummets to around 180 parts per million. This takes us through the first 2.5 miles of our marathon, when the climate once again begins to shift into an interglacial period. This pattern continues as we progress through the marathon. Notice how carbon dioxide concentrations seem to vary together alongside temperature? We have now traveled over halfway through the marathon and have reached mile 13.9, equivalent to 375,000 years ago. We are once again transitioning into a glacial period, with carbon dioxide concentrations bottoming out around 190 parts per million. It's been a long and exhausting run, but the finish line is now in sight. We are only a quarter of a mile from the finish as we enter our current interglacial period, called the Holocene by scientists. Carbon dioxide levels are right around 280 parts per million. Little does Sarah know, things are about to get a lot hotter. There's only 25 feet to the finish line, but in this last sprint, carbon dioxide levels skyrocket to 400 parts per million. Unlike anything we have ever encountered in the last 800,000 years since records began. In just 25 feet, we saw carbon dioxide levels rise by amounts that have traditionally taken over 1.5 miles to occur. What is more concerning is the fact that over the entire duration of the ice core record, carbon dioxide levels have resided somewhere between 180 and 280 parts per million. But in the span of over just 25 feet or 150 years, since the start of the industrial era, carbon dioxide levels have climbed to over 100 parts per million, greater than the typical interglacial maximum. We currently sit at 405 parts per million. This is concerning for our planet because, as we could see, carbon dioxide concentrations have varied with temperature throughout the entire duration of the marathon. The real question is, what will we do about it?